and gentlemen. Welcome into the New Fashion Conservatives podcast. I'm your host, Justin Phillips, and with me, coming to us from an undisclosed water slide in the Wisconsin Dells, Shadow Governor Voss.
Robin Voss's strongest soldier.
So did any of your pull toms hit?
No. Came out bumped. But the hospitality suite, A+.
Looks awesome.
Supper club.
Yeah, it's a cool vibe. It's a perfect vibe.
The vibes are off the chart. Apparently, no one is getting their $100 though. No one has said, "I'd like to come and collect my $100." I saw some other people just walking up to random other people and saying, "I'd like my $100," and those people are just like, "What are you talking about?"
They're like, "I'm not. Are you Gordon Hintz? Are you?"
No. They're like, "I need my rebate check." Well, sorry, that's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, no one's getting $100 or $300.
Yes, well, as most of you know, folks, we record this podcast on Friday, and it is Friday of state convention. So when we're going to be starting, you'll be listening to this. It will be post Wisconsin GOP convention, where I think everyone came in pretty united. You know, we talked about it last week. A lot of other people have talked about it, that as much of the issues that we have with the party and with Brian Schimming, now is not the time to get rid of anyone. We need to roll with this team through November and then revisit things. But right now, you know, coming in united, not going to try and knock off Brian Schimming in some ill-fated coup attempt, and you know, going to unite behind Tom Tiffany for governor, and you know, we'll see what the lieutenant governor endorsement, if they pull one of those off, and same thing for treasurer. I think it'll be John Leiber, obviously, and then Secretary of State. I know we were talking with someone about this that says that sometimes the least interesting or the least important seats, and I say that
amount of power.
Yeah, respectfully to Nate Polnow, who's again been on the show, listen to his interview. Say this respectfully to him and the other folks running. Yeah, it has the least amount of power, but it has the most amount of drama, and I guess we'll see where that shakes out come Monday. But
there will not be an emergency podcast addendum for the update on that.
It would take a lot to come out of the convention.
It might be a footnote.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, state convention. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how things progress.
Mm-hmm.
Again, no $100 so far.
Well, you know, again, just tell us what water slide you're on. I'm looking at him through the computer right now. I can't quite tell if that's the Kalahari or if he just hung out until
Oh, don't give it away too much.
Noah's Ark or is that the wilderness back there?
Don't give it away too much. You said too much. But needless to say, fun time. Surely people will be, I'm sure no one of actual amount will be searching out for $100. I'm sure everyone will be enjoying the night and,
you know, we could
enjoying the unity.
Yeah. Hopefully the conventions are as fun as the ones I've attended in the past. I know, let me just say that I went in 2012 during the recalls, and it was a big party. It was a great, fun atmosphere. You know, a lot of unity and a lot of support for the senators that were being recalled, for Governor Walker and Rebecca Clayfish, who were just a few weeks away from their inevitably victorious recall election. But let me just say, I slept through most of the prayer breakfast on Sunday. So you know what kind of night I had on Saturday night. And again, that was a long time ago and a lot of fun.
Well, this is a far cry from the 22 convention. Obviously, we haven't got to the business. You know, at the time of recording, the business end of the convention has not happened yet. But obviously, that was a bit dramatic. The no endorsement stuff. You know, just the screaming, the yelling, call to question, just all the parliamentarian questions. I'm sure there's always a little bit of that. However, I hope that's limited. So I hope, again, come next podcast, hopefully it's just hey, everything went well.
Yeah.
You know, bang up job.
And we're on to November.
On to the next one. And Tom Tiffany, you know, it is nice to kind of not have dramatics at convention where there's just a little bit of a sense of inevitability, and that's obviously because Tom's our nominee, and this is more of a formality. So, and
I hope you get yourself a winning pull tab. You know, if someone saves one of those for me, or hopefully someone saves one of the Tom Tiffany stir sticks.
Oh yeah, I you can't have played it up. The you betcha, the cliche you betcha. I mean, we need more of it. Dial it up to 11.
Yes,
need more of it, as much of it as possible. And I just want to buy pull tabs now. Like I have no reason to. I will win no money. But the cathartic feeling of just, just ripping the pull tab. And I hate gambling, but there's something about a pull tab and then putting a stack of 20 on the bar with your one winner and your 20 losers.
Well, let me tell you, coming up in a couple of weeks, we might have at least a half New Fashion Conservatives hangout. I'll be with Ben Yount at the dive bar at the Lake Country Dockhounds game, where we can pull some pull tabs while watching some baseball and hanging out with a bunch of other young Republicans. I'm looking forward to that. Actually, Dockhounds kicked off tonight. The last I checked, they were up 8-0 in the bottom of the fifth. They had a no-hitter going.
Wow.
So, good start. Hopefully by Monday, we're talking about a team that's got 3 wins and, is off to the races for their division. But there is one big thing we got to talk about this week. I think it's going to take up a majority of the conversation tonight. We have a few other topics on hand. We're going to be mourning Schlitz beer and talking about hopefully,
so sad.
Yeah, talking about a crazy candidate out of the Winnebago County. But this past week, we went from having a deal and a piece of legislation for a special session that would give money back to taxpayers to having a lot of questions regarding if that vote was going to even happen and how that vote was going to play out, to having the Assembly pass yet the Senate reject a $1.835 billion spending bill. And so we're going to break that down, the good, the bad, the winners, the losers, and the disarray following the failure of that bill to pass. So again, like I said, it was a roughly a $1.835 billion spending bill that would have come from the state's projected general fund surplus. It would go to tax relief, one-time rebates, education funding boosts, and some related items. So I'm just going to break it down. Then Shadow Gov, if you can get yourself to a quiet wave pool.
I'm going to dry off real quick.
I'll break it down, and then we can go through again the pros and cons of the deal, the winners and losers in the Senate, the Assembly, the governor's office. We'll go through all of it. So the bill, one of the big things in it, eliminated the tax on tips and overtime. So that was part of it. Then there was a one-time surplus refund or a rebate check that would come to individuals. So singles would get a $300 rebate check, $600 for couples. It created some new per-pupil state aid for school districts for special needs students. It increased state aid to technical college districts by $50 million annually. It created 2 new $20 million grant programs under the Department of Military Affairs for disaster assistance, and expanded veterans and surviving spouses property tax credits to veterans with at least an 80% service-connected disability. So immediately, I think the big question is, was that a good bill in general? I think in this scenario, overall, better than not. I would have liked to have seen more in it, actually, which I know is a weird thing to say, from the conservative perspective. But I would have really have loved to see a summer gas tax holiday. I think, that was another thing that could have been added to it, to, again, from the political standpoint as well as the good policy standpoint. I know gas prices are exceedingly high right now, and giving folks a little bit of a rebate there and getting those prices down would be great, as well as, creating a political situation where the Democrats, assumingly, in this case, correctly assumingly, they would vote against, something that would have put more money in individuals' pockets. And I think that's where the Democrats are going to have to fall, fall on their sword on this one, is they are voted against no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. They voted against additional per pupil state aid for schools for special needs, and voted against, veterans and our technical colleges. But Shadow Gov, let me know. You said we go through this, we see that most of the Assembly was united on this. I think near every member.
I think there was like maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I think Lindy Brill was one of them.
Sure. But it was overall,
yes,
overwhelmingly passed with Republican votes. A few Democrats came along for the ride. Interestingly enough, not some of the ones that you would suspect would be able to play the politics of it and vote for it because they knew either it was going to go down in the Senate or it was a good deal to sell to their constituents and their future voters. But instead, some of them chose to go against it. We'll see how that plays out come, again, October and November. And then it went to the Senate. In the Senate, there was immediately 3 no votes. 2 of those no votes are Steve Noss and Rob Hutton, who aren't running for re-election. And then Chris Kappinga, who is arguably in the safest, most conservative seat in at least southeastern Wisconsin, if not across the entire state. And he's always been on that side of being a fiscal hawk. So this is not an unsurprising vote. I think what was surprising is that there were 18 total no votes, and that was 15 Democrat senators coming along with 3 Republicans. And no Democrat in the Senate could be arm twisted or coerced or incentivized to vote for this, even though, again, some of them are running in difficult seats. Some of them are running for, tough re-election fights, and again, shows the lack of power that the governor had, lack of power that the assembly minority leader had to get any of her people across the finish line if that was something the governor wanted. So Shadow Gov, now that you've had a chance to dry off, and I talked for several minutes about kind of the ins and outs of the initial policy and the initial vote, give us your thoughts on this.
Well, my thoughts are extremely complicated and nuanced, and of course not clear cut and dry.
And this is what you come to the new fashion conservatives for. You don't
come for decisive takes. You come for the fence sitting,
yeah,
in between.
Well, we want
wishy-washy.
Full picture. We want to give the listeners the full picture. You understand why Steve Noss, Rob Hutton, again, Chris Kappinga vote against it, but they are those fiscal hawk types. Steve Noss has never voted for a budget in the history of budgets, I think.
Ever.
And of course, because it spends too much, it taxes too much, and we understand that. And
I get it.
But give us that nuanced take that can't be squeezed into a 30-second soundbite.
Well, I trust me, I have my issues that I'm very staunch on, and I will tell people that. However, and maybe it's a fault of mine. One thing I've always very much strive for is the truth. And I'm not trying to I am the truth. I speak the truth and nothing but the truth, but I'm trying to be as objective as possible.
You're the Lorax of the conservative movement in Wisconsin. You speak for us.
I can see both sides. I try to put myself in the seat of, Tom Tiffany on this, or the seat of the Assembly Democrats or the Senate Republicans, and what would I do? Mm-hmm. Or what, I can see the merits of basically every angle. Mm-hmm. And so and you just take all those thoughts together and you come up with an opinion. So if people don't like that, well, whatever. It is what it is. So the deal, it has property tax relief, legitimate property tax relief. Now, people could argue, what does legitimate mean? Mm-hmm. I think everyone wants no property taxes. So if anything can cut into that, I'm okay with. However, I always want more. Right. And so will any number be able to, satisfy my need for property tax relief? Probably not.
The one number I can think of is 400, and that's eliminating the 400-year veto that Tony Evers put in place.
That would be nice. So there's that. Obviously, the governor he's trying to do his education governor thing, and he wants more money to go to the schools and a lot to do with special education and raising the reimbursement rates, which obviously funnels a lot of money into that. It is what it is. I'm not an expert in special needs funding. However, I do think kids maybe overall get pushed into that arena a little bit too quickly, maybe. But that is not evidence-based. That is just me on vibes alone.
Sure.
So on the face, you're like, okay, I could probably get behind the deal. And I'm going to go through this, and we can go please. Section by section.
Absolutely.
And we can discuss each party that's involved in this, and then we can kind of talk the pros and cons. I try to go into a pros and cons list because it's so complicated, and it's complicated for people that's on the internet constantly waiting for every J.R. Ross tweet, every update, and then it's still confusing. So I can only imagine with the general public. So overall, I think that there are some good things in the bill.
Yeah.
And now, but when you talk about the merits versus the political aspects, it's completely different.
Right.
So like, I don't even think talking about the merits is really even, it's like, yes, property tax relief, no tax on tips, no tax on, those are all good things.
Yes.
I support those things. But the political implications are really where the calculus comes in. So for example, Assembly Republicans, they overwhelmingly supported it. They were in favor of it. They're voting for instant relief, regardless of what we want to say. Yeah, the normal person, regardless of what the good things that Trump has done, the average person does still kind of feel stuck, you know? And that doesn't mean that Trump hasn't done good things, because I think he has. However, I mean, this just shows how bad Biden screwed things up, that we are still trying to recover from this. So you're voting for instant relief. You're countering kind of the national environment, saying, okay, I'm delivering something right now. I'm not just talking about it. And Assembly Republicans kind of get to dictate that and get to, you know, they get a run as not necessarily a savior, because I don't like government's not a savior, but they certainly get an opportunity to be in front of this issue of affordability. And you're still in the majority. You get to dictate the money right now, and you get to control that. You are in the majority. Obviously, there is, you know, I think some of the people that want to vote no on both sides maybe want to wait to see what happens in the governor's race. Well, I mean, Assembly Democrats were in that position, I believe, in 2008 when they were talking about passing redistricting reform, and they didn't, and then it flipped. And then they got new maps that they didn't like.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the calculus, though, is, and I think was in Republicans, it was a selling point for Republicans, is saying that we want to get rid of this money or get this money out the door back to taxpayers now, because if the Democrats win in November and get what they think they're going to get, that means you're going to have that there's going to be 1,000,001 different ways that they're going to want to spend that surplus. So why not get rid of it now? To mitigate the risk of Democrats having control of extra money.
Right, it's your money. So it's like, why not just give it to you now? Like, I think that's a perfectly good argument that any normal person's like, yeah, why are you sitting on billions of dollars of over-collected state money? Just give it to me now. So I think and that's a very easily, you know, message to normal people. And of course, Assembly Republicans get to, you know, there's obviously a lot of seats that are probably a little bit close because of the new maps. You get to say you worked bipartisanly with the Democrat governor and got something done. Not just talking, actually got something done. Okay. Assuming the deal goes on, of course. Some of the, you know, maybe concerns from the Assembly Republican side is it's moderate tax relief.
Yeah.
And it's maybe not what people are expecting.
One time.
Yeah, it's one time. It's not necessarily fixing the issue or the equation long term. It's a lot of one-time money, so you can't really structurally change stuff too much without changing spending.
And quite frankly, they tried this once before. It was 2018. There was another window where a rebate check went out to voters for, you know, the surplus they had at that time.
Yeah.
So you kind of tried this once. You've been down this road. You know, again, I understand where they maybe don't want to do that, but again.
And then, of course, you have the fact that you're negotiating with the Democrat governor, which, like, you're going to have to give something up.
Exactly.
You're not going to be able to get just rebate checks, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. You're going to have to give something up.
You couldn't get the 400-year veto overridden in that. Yeah.
So you're going to have to give, which means spending money, which, of course, Republicans kind of have an aversion to. And, I mean, you don't get on the 400-year veto, which I don't know. You kind of split the baby with the issue where the 400-year veto is still in place, but you are paying down property taxes. So in a way, it could be framed that you're kind of letting Democrats off for what they caused with this 400-year veto. So that's kind of like the Assembly Republican perspective, at least from me. Assembly Democrats, a little bit different. Of course, Greta comes out very strongly, and this is no surprise. Most of the Democrats come out very strongly against it, except for on the flips, on the one side, on the positive side, all of her Democrats all over vulnerable Democrats, get a positive vote. I think there were 10 Democrats in total that voted for this on the assembly side.
Mm-hmm.
So we're, and then including maybe people that would be considered vulnerable, Sylvia Ortiz Velez, who has a primary right now.
Right.
So she could say she voted for property tax release for the south side of Milwaukee. And Russell Goodwin, who is also facing a primary from the left for being maybe slightly out of step on the trans stuff and voting with Republicans on that and making bipartisan, quote unquote, anti-trans legislation a thing. Although later on, it seems that he voted much more with the party, but he broke here.
Got it.
So there's that. Then there might be a concern as well. Oh, sorry. Before I get to concerns, Jenna Jacobson gets a positive. She's running against Howard Markeline.
Yeah.
So Assembly Democrat running for Republican Senate seat. That will be a very heavily contested kind of rural Dane County rural vote Senate.
It's the rural southwestern, not full southwestern. It's not like touching Mississippi. It kind of wraps
around Dane County and then goes to the southwest Wisconsin. So that is going to be a heavily contested seat. So that wedge issue is kind of taken away. So for at least that race. So that's kind of a positive, I would say, for the Democrats in Assembly. Some cons, and I guess it depends on who you're asking, but they're bucking their Democrat governor. Yeah. 8 years. He's the most popular Democrat governor in recent memory. Not that there's been a ton necessarily.
No, but it is good to. He is, after 8 years, still over. He's over 50%, but he's at least above the water in the approval disapproval.
It's like 50-50, which about is as good as you can get in partisan politics today.
Yeah,
anything above 50 is really good.
I don't know, like Walker ever did above 50, and he won re-election 3 times in the state.
Yeah, in a swing seat, I think it's hovered around 48 or 49%, which is basically about as good as you can probably get in this day and age. So you're still bucking leadership in the end, which of course causes the Dems in disarray narrative, which we're of course not going to exploit at all.
Straight into my veins.
Now, it depends on how you look at it, but Greta comes out strong against this bill, but yet she has 10 Democrats come out in favor of it. Is that Greta not having control of her caucus? Does she actually want it to fail, or is she just hoping that the Senate is the stalwart?
Well, what's interesting is, again, you talked about some of the vulnerables, but you didn't necessarily talk about Robin Vining votes against this bill.
Oh, yes.
And she's running in a left of center, but not overtly left like she is, state Senate race.
I think it voted 6 to 8 points for Kamala. Maybe I think it's closer to 6, and then only 2 points for Tammy.
Right.
So take that as you will.
And you have a good, strong candidate on the Republican side there, but she chooses to vote against it. So it's weird that some vulnerable Dems got it, but others who, they didn't play that political calculus game. They voted against it. And again, hopefully it gets used against them, but it's odd that of who did and who didn't. But yes, I think it does speak to Greta either being a weak leader or just not having control of the caucus.
And this is kind of par for the course for her. She has come out against things all the time and has had numerous members of her caucus break with her.
And the reason she seems to come out often is not anything more than necessarily anything more than just being the knee jerk to be against it.
Yeah. Contrarian.
Yeah.
And we've talked ad nauseum about this, but it's just, she's kind of just on leadership. So this is just kind of par for the course. So I tend to just think people, they're not, if she really wanted people to stay lockstep with her, I just don't think that. And I think she's relying basically on the Senate to do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And of course it's easier in the Senate because there's less senators to convince. Moving on, we have Governor Evers.
Yep.
He's kind of at the center of everything, and maybe the center of the circular firing squad on the Dem side, certainly. But for him, this bill is this is the last chance he has to really affect some change at the state level. And he decided to basically cut the Democrats out completely. And maybe that's because he knows deep down in his heart of hearts that they don't have it in them to actually negotiate. And maybe he knows, and maybe they've already had discussions previously that they didn't even want to negotiate in the first place.
Right.
And he's like, guys, maybe we should just take the deal, or maybe we should negotiate and maybe get something done now instead of waiting and hoping and using fake talking points like, oh, deficit spending. Do Democrats, the biggest tell, it's like a poker tell.
Yeah.
When you like someone's eyes twitches when they're bluffing. A Democrat is lying when they're talking about deficit spending.
When all of a sudden they become the fiscal hawk. Yeah.
It's complete and utter nonsense. Democrats never talk about deficit spending unless they're trying to obscure their real position on something. Okay. It's just like, it is the biggest load of crap I've ever seen, ever heard. And I think normal people see that just because they kind of identify conservatives with fiscal responsibility and Democrats more with taxing and spending. So Governor Evers, he's in legacy preservation mode, as someone put it, smarter than me, trying to, the education governor, trying to cement that legacy. And he advocated for special ed funding. And in the agreed deal, that's what he got, along with some other money to buy down property taxes. But obviously, you're putting more money towards schools. And, the 400-year veto for him, this kind of takes a hit. The 400-year veto.
Yep.
Where it's like, hey, I voted, I did this, but I did give you some property tax relief. So it kind of cuts into that whole argument. Now, he's not running for re-election, so it's not like the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think that was one of actually, and we didn't quite touch on it, but one of the things that I think kind of hurt this negotiation out the gate is you had three leaders: the Republican Senate leader Devin LeMahieu, Robin Vos, the Speaker of the Assembly, and Governor Evers, all being on their way out, all being lame ducks, if you will. They're all not going to be around in 2027 negotiating this. So I think there's always that's the first thing you can kind of poke a hole into.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. However, I think that each person has their own reasons for doing it. I don't think that they're doing it like, oh, whatever, like this isn't a big deal or whatever. I don't necessarily see it like that. Although Devin Draka apparently thinks that because she called this deal a turducken or whatever the heck.
Yeah.
Because lame ducks, whatever. That being said, the cons for the deal for Governor Evers, it's like he's taking a lot of arrows. Like this is the most we've ever seen Democrats attack Tony.
Yeah.
They don't do this.
And they did it outright. They did it on social media,
on the floor, just everywhere. And now he's not running again. So is he going to be the leader of the party for very long? No, but at least for the next couple months, he certainly is. I mean, we're getting more arrows thrown into Tony Evers than we do other Democrat candidates running for governor.
Right.
And it kind of goes to show how confident Democrats think they are. I don't think I would ever see Republicans attack Scott Walker like this.
No, they certainly wouldn't do what Mark Spreitzer did, who, I don't know if you saw this, was was in Governor Evers' replies. I'm not sure if Governor Evers could see Mark Spreitzer because I'm sure he, on his Hinge bio, lies and says he's 5'3", which he might be in lifts. Responded, literally went into the governor's replies on X and said, when the governor was saying that if Republicans and Democrats don't work together, our schools fail. And here's the increase that would be given to schools. And he just, gave a full list alphabetically. Mark Spreitzer said nearly half of this, parentheses, the whole right-hand column, parentheses, is money our schools wouldn't actually get to keep and spend on kids. We have to be honest about this. Well, everyone's favorite Nepo comms girl, Britt Cuddebeck, was back in Mark's reply saying, well, you're wrong. General aid does go to schools. It can be used on whatever districts you want to use for. Unlike categorical aid, schools get more resources and property tax relief. And I guess what I'm really trying to get is they actually had a back and forth. And Mark brought receipts from Legislative Fiscal Bureau. Then Brett Cuddebeck fired back. And they were literally just in each other's replies on this until I think they realized they were doing it so publicly that every Republican on X was watching them with popcorn.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
You talk about the fact, yes, he's taken a lot of arrows. He's getting hit by people who have traditionally or should traditionally support him. It's not just Greta. It's not just the leaders. It's it's 5'5" Mark Spreitzer. Gordon Hintz came out with a long Twitter thread today or Friday.
He didn't have to do that, but
no,
just decided to
just drop it in. And what really, I singularly focused on one comment he made and ignored everything else in there, was advising Tony to not be a dick. And if you know anything about Gordon Hintz, he knows a thing or two about being a dick.
I think that comment stands on its own,
and he did with a bunch of undercover cops.
That's neither here nor there. But needless to say, all the Democrats, I think there was only one. Like Missy kind of came out in favor of the deal, but then as soon as it fails, she kind of like flipped the script a little bit.
That's the most disingenuous, I think, of any of the candidates. She came out in favor of this. I think I know Francesca Honk, she voted against it, so she's against it. Mm-hmm. David Crowley and Sarah Russell Rodriguez made the most non-committal answers.
I think Sarah Rodriguez made the outright most non-committal error. Yeah. She's like, nothing speaks canned answer. Like, I'm sorry, but when a Wisconsin candidate keeps on saying forward, guys, we get it. State motto. Mm-hmm. Use something else. Okay. Well, this is behind us and I'm looking towards the future and forward for Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. It's like, you are so tepid. You are so vapid. There's nothing interesting about you. You're just an empty vassal. Like, have an opinion. Do something. Have an opinion.
Yep.
Like, sure. You could, in probably a perfect world where all the Democrats rally around you as the suburban mom, nurse, CDC, just normal Waukesha Democrat, that could work. But in a primary where you have a lot of people on your left, okay, you got to do more than just basically give non-committal answers.
Right.
So,
but
she still wants the Tony endorsement, probably.
Right. But she gave a non-committal. David Crowley was on the same side of that non-committal. Francesca Hong was the hard no. Kelda Royce was also no. She voted no as a member. Missy was the only one that came out in favor. But yes, after that, she immediately chose to blame Tom Tiffany for killing the bill, even though Tom Tiffany is a member of Congress, does not vote on this, has no way to he didn't author it, he didn't influence it, and she tries to blame him, and that lie is probably the most easily debunked thing, because the Democrats were the ones, 15 Democrats in the state Senate killed this.
And speaking of the Senate, we can move on to kind of the Senate dynamics. Mm-hmm. Now that we've gone Assembly Republicans, Assembly Democrats, Governor Evers, Assembly Republicans. Now, obviously, the positives for them, they get a vote for tax relief too. They get a vote for all the same positives that the Assembly Republicans do. The only difference is there's really only one Republican that benefits from this, and that's Howard Markeline, who's obviously up for re-election.
Vulnerable seat.
All the other Republicans are in safe seats.
Yes.
Pretty much. Or they've retired and there's going to be new challengers for those seats. Namely, Rob Hutton, Jesse James is retiring. So
Van Wangard.
Yeah, Van Wangard. So like those seats, of course they matter, but they don't necessarily, those incumbents aren't going to have a record that's going to be scrutinized. So there's that. And of course, the Senate probably has a little bit more of a risk of flipping. So that's kind of, maybe the vote means more to Howard Markeline than maybe some of the other Assembly Republicans. So that's on the record. That's all great. Some of the cons, probably similar to the Assembly Republicans as well. It's moderate tax relief again. It's not the whole kit and caboodle. And of course, as any Republican, we want the money to go to our priorities.
Yeah.
And that's just not realistic with a Democrat governor. So this is, I don't want to say it's the best deal we could have gotten, but it's probably, I mean, I don't know what else we could ask for, because as soon as you ask for, I want an income tax cut. Well, guess what? We're going to get another couple $100 million into schools then, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how far do you want to take this thing? Okay. Another thing that I would say with the Senate Republicans is that it is tougher to negotiate with the Senate numbers because the numbers are so small. And you can only afford to lose.
And when you know, because of the limited Senate dynamics or limited number of votes, you're always going to lose one or two. You can only afford to lose one or two. And you're always going to almost be guaranteed to lose two of the fiscal hawks on the Republican side. And again, two of those guys are leaving. So,
and instead of negotiating with Republicans, you are negotiating with Democrats, which you're not going to like those terms either.
Yep.
Which again, maybe there are certain things that are just lines that can't be crossed, but I would rather deal with negotiating with Republicans than negotiating with Democrats. And so when people are hardline no's, when someone can go and say, oh, that person's going to vote no anyway, you become a non-factor. There is no reason to even account for your opinion because you vote no on everything. And maybe that's just your principles, and you know what? That's just how you're going to play it. So be it. However, if I were a state senator, I would want to be like, I don't know, involved.
Yeah.
You know,
if you want your vote, like you said, if you want that's a brilliant thing. If you want your voice to be heard, you can't be a guaranteed no vote.
So, I mean, imagine if you are a conservative state senator and you don't like the spending. Okay, guess what? Your one vote. But your one vote can maybe make the deal a little bit less bad or less spendy if you have an opinion and you're willing to vote for it.
Yeah.
Instead of letting the Democrats negotiate and you get that money and then some. I don't know. Just, I mean, granted, there are red lines, and maybe those red lines were crossed for those senators. And I'm not here to tell them what their red lines are. However, maybe some pragmatism, and that doesn't mean maybe approving everything. I'm just saying maybe some pragmatism in the moment might be, warranted. But then again, some retirement, so maybe that was kind of thrown to the wayside. All right, Senate Democrats. This is the one. This is the most exciting one, probably. The pros. There's really only one positive for Senate Democrats doing this deal, and that's for Jeff Smith, who is running for re-election in a bit of a swing seat now. But the thing is Jesse James is retiring and will not be running, and he was easily the most. I mean, it's an incumbent versus an incumbent race, and it would have been tough, But Jeff Smith's been there forever. He's kind of gotten that reputation as a rural Democrat, more of the salt of the earth guy, and that works. It does work, and it would have been tough to beat him. So that is something that would have been very tough, even for Jesse James. And now it becomes even more difficult. And this kind of shows that the Senate Democrats don't think they even needed this vote. Again, this shows maybe an overconfidence. I mean, you can be confident in your abilities, but this is maybe an overconfidence that Jeff Smith can vote against this, go back to his voters in swing districts, in swing areas, and say, yep, I voted against real relief that you could have had this year before the election. You know how powerful that would be, even if it's a little bit of money, to be like, I got you a little bit extra money. And if you reelect me, I'll get you more. That can work. But he voted no, along with all the Senate Democrats. They all voted as a block. They were unified. Diane Hasselbein, you got to give her some credit.
Kept them all together, yeah.
Kept them all together. Something that Greta has not been able to do. She kept the caucus unified. And if you're Tony Evers, you're definitely lobbying people to vote for this.
Yeah, I think that's really something that stands out to me is Tony couldn't get, Jeff Smith along, or couldn't get Diane Hasselbein to, give the green light to a few of her less progressive or more moderate members. I say that on a scale where everyone is far left progressive, and there's maybe a few that aren't quite that far. Some of the more pragmatic ones, the more vulnerable ones, the ones again who might not be up this cycle but might be up in the next cycle.
But that's the thing. Like voters have a very small.
No, I know, but you want to have that in your back pocket.
Of course. But in the immediate, Jeff Smith was literally the only consideration, and Jeff Smith is a strong incumbent and probably can withstand, at least right now, voting against that. it's still tough to say, to say you voted against real relief. That would have been a reality if he would have voted for it. But, or even more so if he voted against it.
Yeah.
And then it still passed. That would have been bad too. Regardless, it's not a big it is a very big deal, in my opinion, that Diane was able to keep them all together. Jody Habish-Sinekin, which is in a swing seat, Ozaki, kind of into Milwaukee County. I think it even goes into Washington County a little bit.
Yeah.
Swing seat. She voted against it. Brad Pfaff, another kind of swing area. I mean, leans Dem, but I mean, it's more of that conservative trending area. He voted against it. Those are probably 3 votes between Jeff Smith, Jody Habish-Sinekin, and Brad Pfaff. I would think that they would all,
you could have brought
potentially
them all up. Yeah.
any one of those or a combination of those could have sealed the deal. So Diane Hesselbein, kudos to you for keeping the caucus together. Not saying that's a good thing, but I guess you're a better leader than Greta. And finally, last but not least, Tom Tiffany.
Yeah. We got to talk about this.
He got wrapped up in the middle of all this.
Yeah. And I'm not here to post on, to tell you, to play pundit on and political strategist on what Tom should have done or not done. I'm not going to go on, post 10 things on Facebook.
I'm not going to troon out over it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do want to talk about Rob Stachholz's office and who the hell thought it was a good idea in that office to say that, well, Tom Tiffany called us and told us to vote no. Like, if you wanted to set up the Democrats to let Tom Tiffany take the fall for this, that's how I would start it. So really stupid decision. And I don't know who did it or how that came about. I just heard that, well, Stachholz's office is saying that Tom Tiffany told us to vote against it. That stupid that got out.
So J.R. Ross was reporting this. And now, to be very clear, J.R. Ross said that Tiffany was not advocating for a no vote. He was maybe discouraged, or he was like, he had concerns about it, but he stopped short at saying,
okay, fair enough.
Saying outright no. However, in the land of politics and make believe, which is just the world that Democrats live in, you don't have to be against something to be against it. You can just allude to the fact that they're against it, or they'll just lie and say he was against it. Now, obviously, Tom came out kind of after, publicly and said, yeah, this is kind of, in his words, a gimmick.
Yeah.
Return the entire surplus. Don't do this like half deal. We should have the opportunity to give it all back to people.
And that's why you should elect me for governor. And that's a fine angle to take.
Yeah.
Not my favorite, but a fine one.
It's a strategy, and I mean, he went balls to the wall with it. He didn't try to do a Sarah Rodriguez and try to kind of explain it away, or try to pretend that, oh, people are just going to forget about this, and maybe I'll just kind of split the baby on it. Obviously, if he comes out in favor, you're coming out in favor of real relief, but you're kind of, you're taking the property tax thing away from you a little bit, which the 400-year veto is obviously a huge piece of the campaign. But yeah, I don't really know why someone would talk to the I don't quite understand that.
That's a far stretch from what Missy Hughes tried to kind of message test into this one and saying that Tom Tiffany killed the bill. He didn't. He's not the reason this failed.
Like, who's the governor?
This is because of
who's the governor right now?
Yeah, Tony and whose vote did you need in the Senate? Whose vote could you have brought along? It was 15 straight Democrats that voted against it. Not.
Like the no votes in the Senate have been no votes all session, and many of them for their entire career. So, like, this is not something new. Okay, right. We kind of understood what the calculus was beforehand, and that he's probably going to come down to 1 or 2 Democrats in the state Senate that were going to make this deal. Okay, so, however, the Dems, yes, they're running with Tom Tiffany killed this. It's got the parallel to the Trump. When Trump was running at the national level, and there was the bipartisan, in quotes, bipartisan immigration deal, which would have basically given. Now, this is maybe where I differ, because I do think that deal was crap.
Okay.
At the federal level, it would have basically given a huge out on Biden on immigration, and in fact, it would have basically been able for Biden to say that there's a national emergency whenever at the
Mm-hmm.
border, and then end it whenever he wanted to. And it was just kind of it was a fig leaf. He was covering himself, but very little, and actually did nothing in actuality. Politically, a fig leaf. And I don't think that this deal is anywhere near that. So I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm just saying the parallels, that they said that Trump killed the bipartisan border deal. And that was a talking point for a couple months. And they might try to do the same thing with this, where, oh, Tom Tiffany, he wants the political issue. He's playing politics with your money. He killed the deal, which, again, he's not the governor.
No, but that's something you got to do when you're polling at the same percentage as Brett Halsey, and probably would, if the election were held today, lose to Kirk Bangstad.
Ouch.
And that's what you got to do when you're one of those candidates, is you got to throw something at the wall and see what sticks, and see what gets you, likes and retweets and on Facebook and Twitter. And that gets you, in some podcasts or something like that. That's Missy Hughes tried that. And I said, I don't think it's going to be successful. No, I think that's easily deflected. And
the only reason we've probably given Missy more name ID than her campaign.
Yeah. But the reality is, and this is posted by Dan O'Donnell at the Heartland Post, where you can, again, read some of our writing, but this in case is Dan's. He said that 96% of all Republicans in the state legislature voted in favor of this measure. Only 18% of Democrats did. And, there was one no vote in the GOP Assembly Caucus, and that was Scott Allen. Again, someone who, if you know his voting history, that shouldn't surprise you. But you also know that Robin is the type that will keep everyone together, but will let a few break off if they really need to or really want to. And in this case, they didn't need Scott's vote. And Scott, is someone who's at the end of his political career for now. So
taking a sabbatical.
Yeah, just let him slide off. So
my last thing with this whole deal. So what we just gave a very detailed blow by blow of like who's benefiting from this, who gets a talking point. But what does that actually mean? Like, what is everyone wants it distilled down. And this is why you come for podcasts. It's like, you don't come here for just the top line, like the one answer or one sentence answer. You come here for the blow by blow, which we just gave.
Yep.
But what is who comes out on top? Who wins?
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know who wins. And I think that's what voters are going to come away with, because even in some of the I saw CBS 58 had this thing where even some people were like, yeah, I would want tax on tips, but like, maybe I understand why the deal didn't go through. So it's already kind of mixed. And we are quite literally experiencing the Spider-Man meme of everyone pointing at everyone else.
Yeah.
Almost everyone has a talking point at someone else to say, no, this is your fault.
Yep.
No, this is your fault. Now, maybe some reasons are more legitimate than others, but everyone is, you have Governor Evers blaming Senate Democrats and Tom Tiffany. You have Assembly Republicans blaming Senate Democrats and Senate Republicans. You have Senate Democrats blaming everybody,
right?
Including the governor.
Yeah. So it's fighting with the governor's office.
No one can discern that. And before this episode, I wrote down on my napkins that I took from the bar, of course, from the Tom Tiffany.
The Tom Tiffany napkins to go along with the Tom Tiffany stir sticks.
Yes, I was writing notes on my pull toms, if you will, trying to discern what the pros and cons of this deal was for each, because it's so complicated.
Yeah.
And if people have to parse this much, the only thing that is going to matter is who can weaponize their message the most, and that is the one that matters.
And in that case, I think it's the Assembly and Senate Republicans.
Yeah, I would agree.
Who can point to people like Robin Vining, who voted against no tax on tips. Who does that hurt? That hurts service industry hourly workers. They voted against property tax relief. They voted against special needs funding for education. Like, those are three pretty big bullet points that can fit easily on a mailing piece, in a lit piece, in a TV or internet ad. Like, I think those are the ones that get hurt the most.
And Assembly Democrats, as well as probably some Senate Democrats as well. I don't have the vote in front of me right now, but many of them voted against the budget as well.
Yeah.
So like they are on the record of for example, they supported the special ed increase in this bill that didn't become law. Some of them voted against, though, the special ed increase in the budget. So we might come to a scenario where one side's saying that they voted for it, and the other side they voted against it, and both would be correct. However, maybe you could say a Democrat voted against the current increase, meaning like it is a real thing, whereas they said I voted for the hypothetical increase that it didn't actually happen. And this is the game of politics. You know, both things are technically correct. No one's going to get sued over it because it's basically true. But whoever has probably got more money, a better message, and a better vehicle delivering that message will be able to actually use it and win with it. So,
and I hope any Republican or Republican running in a Senate or Assembly district where they had a candidate or an opponent voting against this, I hope that gets used. That's 101. So to put a bow on this conversation, Shadow Gov, you're not the Shadow Gov. You're the shadow. You're the shadow assemblyman. You're the shadow senator.
I'm the shadow convention member.
What would you vote in favor of it?
I think I probably would.
Same. I wouldn't. I wouldn't
it's
love
hard
it
for me to vote against property tax relief and like no tax on tips. Like
I think that's good enough.
I think that's it would be really tough. And at the end of the day, as a legislator, and like I'm not, so like I'm just hypothetical, but like you have to think of the people that are in your district that would actually be impacted by this. And I think that's what a lot of Republicans did is they, I understand that there are a lot of things I don't like about this. I want more. I want something different. But I think this is going to help in the interim. And my libertarian streak kind of comes up. It's like sitting on a bunch of money. Just don't love the idea of doing that. It's just not ours, And so at some point it's like,
I think there was more good in this than bad, and I think that's if I was in that position, I would have voted in favor of it.
But of course, none of this matters because guess what? It failed. It's not happening. Although apparently there are now the 5 largest school districts have come together and say, guys, go back to the drafting table. We need money. So who knows what'll actually maybe we come back and there's another deal. I have no idea. Anything can happen in a year. All I just got to say, the reoccurring theme of this year of the podcast is thank God we started a podcast because maybe in any other election year, I guess, what am I saying? That's Wisconsin. There's always something interesting in politics. But we picked a really good year for coming up. And speaking of which, we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of starting the podcast.
Yes, we are.
So we'll have to do, I don't know if we'll do like a special
little meet and greet.
I don't know about that.
Little barbecue.
I just had a meet and greet with some people that had no idea who they were meeting and greeting with. Not that I'm important. I'm not important. I'm a nobody.
I had one of those the other day. Actually, it was at AFP's trivia event and talking to some people who just randomly started talking about the new fashion conservatives. I went over and said, hi, I'm Justin Phillips. Glad you like the show. So I love those moments. Awesome. Hope there's a few more. I wanted to move on and talk about our next comment. And then I realized we were looking through this thing, took a pause for a moment and realized Joel Brennan did not actually launch anything new for his campaign, but tried to repost an old video. And for a moment had me believing he had a new ad where he is not trying to sell himself as the boring white guy. But he still is.
He still is. And depending on how much money he has here at the next filing, he might be doing pretty well in that lane. So we'll have to see. But we haven't heard much from Joel Brennan. So when we see something, we see like media that isn't him going on Kristen Lyerly's podcast in proceeding to say that maybe Wisconsin isn't ready for someone of color. So basically it isn't just that isn't the only newsworthy thing.
I was expecting that ad to be something from Steve Martin in The Jerk saying I was born a poor black child.
Yeah, my goodness.
No, but he tried to re-up his his old campaign ad, where he tried to convince the viewers that he was a champion of tax relief and economic reform in Wisconsin. The problem is, of course, he's taking advantage of Republican lawmakers and their wins, and in fact, some of former Governor Scott Walker's wins than he is under his own Department of Administration.
Oh yeah, we had a rainy day fund when I was DOA secretary. Yeah, guess who created those budgets?
Yep.
I would love to. Do we really need to go back and look at the old proposed budgets under Tony Evers for DOA?
Right.
Come on, this wouldn't be hard. And I'm sure they would be large, and they would continue to get larger. Come on, Joel. It makes for a good ad, I know, but let's not forget Tony Evers had 8 years. He had four budgets then. They all proposed massive tax increases, actual deficit spending, not the fake stuff that Democrats are bellyaching about right now. So I don't know why Joel thinks he can rehash this now, but again, trying to
fooled me for a moment. I thought he actually had a new ad and he just re-released his old content.
It's just been that long.
Yeah, man. Well, we have to talk about a new candidate for certain on the ballot. So we got to talk about Danny Failsnick, the non-binary queer psychic running for Winnebago County Sheriff. So Danny, who uses they, them pronouns, lists herself as a licensed professional counselor for 15 years in mental health and crisis response. Also is a psychic medium, tarot reader with over 24 years experience, and lists Reiki healing. She's a Reiki master amongst her credentials, and her therapy profiles combine spirituality, tarot, psychic practices with counseling, especially for LGBTQ plus clients. And she is running for Winnebago Sheriff.
That makes her qualified.
Yes,
to run for the county's top cop position. What is it with the tarot people? This is week 2 of tarot.
Yeah. I wonder if she competes with the time traveling one.
Also,
do that.
Is there there's got to be like a right-wing headline generator or something?
Right.
And it's just like hit randomize, and this is what it pops up.
I dropped this into the group chat and said, if I actually posted this, no one would believe it's true. But
it is. Danny
Failsnick is really running for Winnebago County Sheriff. Her campaign website does not detail
they, them. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I would appreciate it if you respected the pronouns.
They just seem very female coded.
It is.
So her I can't even remember the website of this candidate. Does not detail traditional sheriff duties such as managing jail operations, coordinating with state and federal agencies, or overseeing patrol investigations. So the sheriff's office in Winnebago County handles patrol, court security, jail management, emergency response for the 170,000 residents. Instead, its campaign calls for a better future by abandoning fear, slowing down, and observing hope by connecting to our community and rebuilding a sense of purpose in our lives. Yes, what we need to tell people who are being chased by murderers is to just slow down.
So I had written a piece. It's been like 2 weeks now. And the title was Democrats Are Incapable of Self-Governance. And I think that rings true right about now. Now, obviously, this is as much of a hack as I am, this is like a caricature of the left. This is a real person that actually believes these things, that spent time putting together a website that said these are her issues. She believes them 100%, but it is kind of like the Kirk Baxton is like a caricature of like the blue anon left liberal types. However, this is the effects of liberals sowing and reaping their schizo base, where this is just a reality. This is kind of I don't want to say it's an average Democrat because I'm being charitable here, but the average Democrat is certainly sympathetic to these viewpoints or something, which is why they're capable of self-governance. Because if they're just going to revert to this, this is not even like close to what sheriff. What? Why is she running for sheriff? I don't.
She could probably abolish the police and end ICE.
It's not even the right. I mean, she should be running for
county board, maybe.
I
don't know.
Yeah, or
State
something.
assembly, I guess.
Yeah, that would fit your wheelhouse a little bit better.
Yeah.
Sheriff. I mean, that's the thing that just kind of floors me.
Really
it's so way out in left field. Like even like a quote unquote Democrat sheriff, like wears the uniform and kind of goes through the motions.
There's still a top cop.
There's still like Calvin Barnett, the DA, or not the DA, the county sheriff out of Dane County.
Yeah.
Liberal as the day is long. He ended the 287G agreements with the federal government for for immigration. He's done. He's very progressive. Responds to the political pressure. But I mean, he's still a cop.
He still has the badge on.
Yeah. This person is just the farthest thing away from it. So buckle up.
We're going to have to keep a list of these. You have Danny Failsnick. You have that one up for the 8th congressional district.
Also Failsnick, fails.
You have Katrina DeVille for Congress in the 8th. Don't forget.
Yeah, that one's a little too on the nose.
Yeah.
I'm going to dye my hair black and then do a little Cruella DeVille.
Yeah, and be a Satanist that also is in favor of our troops, certainly maybe the trans troops.
Well, these people mainly, they do live as caricatures. They hate themselves usually so much that they have to develop these like fake alternative realities. And it's literally just a character, which like the Cruella DeVille thing. I mean, it's like so on the nose.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things I hate, I know you hate this too. Pabst Brewing has officially discontinued Schlitz beer, the Midwest cult favorite, long marketed as the beer that made Milwaukee famous. So the last Schlitz is slated to go on sale June 27th. The beer that made Milwaukee famous has now ended 60 to 70 positions at the San Antonio headquarters of Pabst.
Sad.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to say other than it's kind of the end of an era. I mean, it was kind of holding on, it wasn't quite what it once was, of course, but to not have it anymore, period.
Right. So Schlitz is an interesting history because you said that there's iterations of it. So it was created by German immigrant August Krug in 1849. Wonder if they're related to Scott. Then it was taken over by his bookkeeper, Joseph Schlitz, who renamed the facility and married Krug's wife and named the beer after himself. That actually feels like there needs to be a whole separate sort of Netflix thing about that.
Now Schlitz beer got basically stolen from this guy.
maybe
his entire brand, his wife.
Did Joseph Schlitz kill August Krug and then take over? Now this is we got a whole new podcast. We're going to be talking true crimes of brewing.
True crime podcasts are a degenerate form of entertainment that I will not partake in. I will not denigrate our humble podcast to do so.
Well, in that case, Schlitz was bought by Stroh's in let's see here, where was that? In the 70s. Was later acquired by Pabst in 1999, who revived its original all malt and grain recipe to gain consumer interest. Now, I remember Schlitz like kind of making a comeback in like 2010, 11, 12, early aughts. Felt like Schlitz was back on the market then, and maybe I'm wrong. So I have this memory of Schlitz not being around before then. It's on after then.
I really enjoy it.
Yeah, a bar that I used to go to in Milwaukee, the Brat House, used to serve these, and maybe it was a 6 or 8 ounce pour of Schlitz for $1. You got 2 little mugs, and we just spent some time knocking them back, and you got Pabst for $1 too, and if you really wanted to get weird with it, you got Schlapst. But yeah, it was a Brat House. That was the only time I really think I remember drinking Schlitz, but it was like $1 for a little mug of
it.
So.
I do like it. Like I'm not a really a beer person.
Sure.
I'm not. I mean, I'll drink it, but I'm not like, oh, this beer tastes much better than the other one. Like
it was a good drinking beer. It had a more unique flavor than any of the Miller brands, and it was very PBR style, very similar in my opinion. Certainly not as kind of that watery, grainy thing that the Busch and Buds have, and not that light sort of thing that Miller and those products have. So it had its own unique.
We'll have to pour one out.
Yeah, well, they go on sale for at least another month, so we'll have to have one of these pods, and maybe one of our guests will join us in-house, and we can just knock back some Schlitz while we talk. And speaking of another thing that's closing, this only came to my attention recently. In fact, I think it was announced on Friday the 15th, and something that I mentioned in a previous episode about Duke's on Water. So it's one of the bars that's on the corner of Water Street on the north side. I can't remember that cross street, but it's near formerly Arts Performance Center. I talked about it on the pod before. Is that it was where I went to eat my American gyros to not get harassed by the people coming out of Arts Performance Center.
What do you mean? I thought the Arts like the Center for the Arts, of course,
right?
The high class establishment.
No,
right?
More low class dancing than the high class acrobatics.
You would go like for the ballet, of course, right?
That's sure. Yeah, I've seen the Nutcracker. It was not what you see in the other. I didn't even mean to do that. God damn, that caught myself by surprise.
That was good. Oh,
okay. Yeah, it's a bit different than the ballet, but so Duke's is on that kind of the north end of Water Street, and after 22 years, amid rising rent and crime concerns, it's closing. It's unfortunate. Again, someone who family adjacent. My godfather's son was the manager of Dukes and Scooters for the longest time. Then, of course, owns Mojo now, which is on the other side. But the building that Dukes was in was recently sold. The proposed new rent was too high for them to remain profitable, especially given the challenges posed by crime and other factors. I know WISN interviewed one of the bartenders there and said, spoke about the fact that the food trucks were actually helping things out. He said that I don't feel like the food trucks don't have anything to do with what's going on down here. They actually kind of benefit us towards the end of the night. So I wish we had a little bit more of the police presence down here, maybe on foot. So this is from a bartender by the name of Marquise Murph, who was interviewed by WISN, where we're getting this article from. So Dukes on Water opened in 2014 in a space known as Mel's. But yes, changing consumer habits and crime have led to the closure of a corner bar on Water Street.
Well, and this is not just on Water Street. It's kind of like right in the center of all this.
It's the heart of it, yeah.
Like this is kind of where that lady, if people remember, I can't remember if we even talked about it. There was a lady that got ran over on Water Street and was in a very bad accident. Or she was walking with her friend and they were both hit by a car. And then they kind of started blocking off the roads right there. Obviously, there's been a number of shootings down on Water Street. I mean, that we've posted videos from Water Street that have happened like literally not even a block, like a couple steps, a stone's throw away from Duke's, where there's, people getting beat up in the street, all kinds of nonsense. And yeah, I'm sure those people want more cops down there, but
instead they're going to get less food trucks.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, and this is probably a greater trend. And kudos to Dukes for just calling it how it is, which, when a Walgreens, when a Pick and Save, well, it just economically didn't become viable anymore. Which is just like code for, sure, economically things aren't doing well because, I don't know, our merchandise keeps on getting stolen.
Exactly.
People, or there's just a ton of crime around. And I don't really want to deal with that. So it just became less economically viable to, keep the store around. But it wasn't just because of consumer behavior changes or something. But so good on Dukes for just kind of put, rent's high, crime sucks. It's not worth it anymore.
Yeah. That's a shame. A shame. Hopefully someone moves in there, but again, given those circumstances,
I'm sure Water Street, obviously, it's still prime real estate. But I guess with the current trends, maybe it's becoming less of a more sought-off position.
And with that, Shadow Gov, I'm going to let you get back to the lazy river, float in that while
Thank you.
Hide out from anyone who might be at Wisconsin GOP convention. For those that were there, I hope you had a great time. We had a moment before the show reminiscing on some fond memories of some former conventions that I've been to, and it brings back a lot of memories. I'm already having a little bit of FOMO, knowing that I am not there, pulling on some Tom Tabs and getting a Tom Tiffany stir stick and hanging out there. So
we'll do a toast for you.
Yes,
we'll do a toast in your
we'll have
absence.
some other events as we're coming up on our 1 year this summer. We'll maybe have some parties or something like that, and barbecue, some sort of thing. We'll see. We're planning. We got some stuff in the works. Next couple episodes, I know we've got some great interviews lined up for you as well. So with that, thank you again to everyone who's tuned in for the first time recently, or as well as our OG listeners. Thank you for making this pod a success. If you really like what you hear, make sure to leave us that 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, and we will read your reviews on the show. If you want more content, check out what we're writing at the Heartland Post. Of course, if you want to learn more about us or have any questions, hit us up at newfashionpod@gmail.com. Find us on Rumble, YouTube, and Substack at New Fashion Conservatives, X at New Fashion Pod. Have a great Monday.